day. Now, sorry if there's a bit of an audio problem. It's very warm at the minute, so the windows are obviously down. But yeah, chest and biceps always been like one of my, like, you know, when I first started training, always been one of my favourite things to train. Both of them, you know, chest with, you know, the movements, I think, with chest, not really the pump. And then, you know, when your biceps are pumped, I think, you know, it's one of the coolest things. But yeah, we're in for a long one today, as you know, I also put front delts and side delts with my chest and my biceps today. I'll always put the front part of the shoulders, as you may call it, the front and the laterals with any sort of chest there. However, I was sort of planning out today's session, and you know, we're nearly coming up to, well, we might, but we're coming up to around double digits in terms of exercises. I mean, you know, it's not always a bad thing, because, you know, we're training our biceps fresh, and I just think it's, you know, when it doesn't matter what muscle groups you're training, if you've been training for that long, you're going to lose energy. So I sort of have a idea in mind to sort of take our, so usually you take your pre, and you know, it'll kick in around 10 to 20 minutes, and it'll last you for around about an hour or so. However, we're probably going to be training for a couple of hours, so just so we're getting the most out of, you know, our chest and biceps, even though biceps are fresh, I think my plan is to take just over half a scoop just before chest, and then when we get to the mid sort of section, you know, maybe our second shoulder, which would be our last shoulder, we'll take the other half of three. Now, I always, with my chest days, I've always sort of done the same things. I'll always have one or two heavy incline movements, and then one or two fly movements. However, you know, being this serious about competing, I sort of need to make sure I'm getting everything in. So we have added a front delt movement. Obviously, we might be a bit fatigued doing it, so obviously the load won't be too heavy. But yeah, the load won't be too heavy. And also, I believe we've added a flat press. However, I'm not too sure if I'll be doing it. Also, this is my first time doing this day in the, well, I don't know if you'd call it new gym, because I'm still at the other one, but recording wise, I'm in this one. So that's the plan. Now, it's getting warmer, 100%. So we're sort of at that point now where, you know, wearing joggers in the gym, it's sort of almost difficult to do. Like, especially, you know, if I personally prefer to wear joggers. I don't know, it makes less like focus and stuff, like wearing oversized stuff. But especially because, you know, I'm on the Stairmaster after every single session. I think, you know, being on the Stairmaster after every session, you know, shorts. We kind of want shorts. But yeah, the plan is to get in there, get on a fly variation. Now, I've never done chest in this gym, but in my other gym, and just, you know, all time, I've always, you know, I'll start with a cables, whether it's seated or standing, so we will find that, and also we will, you know, get the band out and loosen up a bit, make sure, and you know, that will set us up nicely for our heavy free weight, if you may call it, heavy pressing movement, which will be a incline dumbbell. Now what I usually do is with my incline dumbbell, people usually have it flat or 2 inclines high. Now I have it on like an incline, but only like one up, so a sort of low incline, and then I'll do a so a low incline, and then that sets us up nicely for, you know, a higher incline on the Smith machine, which I plan to do today. I was before the gym, while having my pre-workout meal, which was about a couple of hours ago. So it's one of them like fuel vehicles. I don't know what they're called. When I've got like a camera in front of me, I sort of lose my brain cells, but I can hear its sat nav. But yeah, I was watching Chris Bumstead's off-season chest workout before training today, and what he does for chest is almost similar to what I've structured today. So hopefully we can we've got some consistency coming in terms of that within being in a new gym, because you know, my first back and tricep session in there, which hasn't been recorded yet. Well, it's been done, but it wasn't recorded. You know, we were playing around with, you know, a few machines, this, that and the other. But now we've found, like, you know, the exact movements we're doing for that. And, you know, next time we go in there, it's just going to be easy. We go in there, we know what we're doing, we know, you know, where we're progressively overloading, and that's the same with legs. So, you know, there could be some confusion in today's session, but you know, that's not always a bad thing. It just means that, you know, you set for the future, if you may call it. Gym in summer. I don't know what I make of it. I definitely prefer the winter, more my sort of vibe. But you know, if you've gotten lean and you know you've been in a cutting phase, you know, it's always nice to have this term. But if you're in an off season and you're not competing, then, you know, especially if you're bulking through winter, then it's not amazing. But the good thing is, you know, the bulking phases are usually longer than the cutting phases. So yeah, the bulking phases are usually longer than the cutting phases, and you know, the summer phase is shorter than the, you know, not just winter, but it's also colder, you know, in March, February, not just winter. If you prefer winter like me, you'll always have a longer period. I think especially if you're like, you know, if it's your thing, like bodybuilding and gym and whatnot, like I think like the sort of oversized clothes, getting stronger, bulking, you know, is always funner. You know, right now we're sort of in the phase where, you know, certain types of clothing it's difficult to wear, but yeah, we are approaching the gym. It's not too long of a drive for me, you know. It's not, you know, there's think of like a gym not being too far, like its positive and negatives of it. You know, if your gym's far, it means that, you know, you're not really going to know anyone when you go in there, so you don't. And it's sort of exciting sort of thing. And then, you know, if a gym's closer, it means you don't have to travel for that long and you're not sitting down for ages before you train. But yeah, we're in for a big session. Yeah, let's get straight into it. Okay, so welcome to my full chest and bicep session. Now, before mostly on upper days, I like to start by getting blood into the shoulders, which is what I'm doing here. I usually just mess around with the band for a few minutes, just going back and forth with it, making sure, you know, we're not getting any injuries. And my shoulders have been good ever since I've been doing this consistently. And then usually in between that, I usually do 2 sets of this where I go front delts about 6 to 8, side delts about 6 to 8, and then rear delts, just getting that blood into them shoulders. Obviously only a 2 kilo here. We don't, anything 2-4 is fine. We don't want to fatigue ourselves. But first movement, opening up that chest, getting blood into it before heavy pressing, which is what we're doing here. Obviously not ridiculously heavy. We're going for about, I believe this was 10 to 15 on the first set. We did this weight twice, and then on the last one we dropped it and did quite a few. I believe it was 15 to 20. But yeah, this chest and bicep session, not really to do with biceps, more to do with the chest and shoulder. I was sort of just like messing around with, you know, I've been trying to find a like a good, you know, foundation for, because chest and shoulders on the same day, making sure we're not, you know, putting too much into the session, but also not, you know, making sure we're hitting everything, but not having too much. That's what I'm trying to say. So the plan is there are some things that are going to be removed and some exercises that are going to be tweaked, which I will show in our next session. But into the heavy pressing now. I believe this was our first set. We got this for, I believe it was 6 to 8. Yeah, making sure we're keeping it nice and slow, elbows tucked in, no ego here. And then moving on to our first plate loaded press, which was, the first one was a heavy one. and the second one was a back off. So this heavy one I believe was 110 for 5 or 6, which, I'm happy with. I feel like with this I could have, figured out how to use it so there's something in between the machines so I don't have to lean back to press it first. But I've sort of learned how to do that, so it's not too much of an issue. So going into the incline Smith now, this was our back off, I believe we were 10 kilos heavier on the first one, which we got for about 6. This one I think was 8 to 10. Keeping it slow, keeping the chest under tension here. And then I believe we were into shoulders. Now this, I think a few machines before this I was sort of messing around with a few, but I chose this one. This one, I believe, it was because of with the other ones, the machine sort of stopped on the down part of the movement, and I couldn't get a full range of motion. Here, finishing off the chest with pec deck, I usually like this sort of movement finishing off. I believe it's quite difficult. I use make sure you're using what's called the death grip, I believe. So when you can fully squeeze them two bars together instead of it hitting your thumb, which is very important. And try and bring the elbows together, try not to flare them out to where your shoulders are, and you will feel it more in your chest. Well, yeah, even though it's not the exact chest and shoulders routine that's going to be for the future and when I have it was still a good one, I believe. Everything was hit with good intensity. Here we did 4 sets of lateral raises. Usually my training with the lateral delt is different to other muscle groups. I usually some people do a seated one and then a standing one. I just like to either do, it doesn't really matter, I'll do a seated dumbbell, seated machine, standing machine, cable. I just do 4 sets, a minute in between, just pump it out. In terms of the lateral head, not too heavy. That's usually where injuries come. And then moving on to a preacher. Now in my other gym, it is a double hand, so this is the first time using single. I was pretty impressed with I had a muscle fit on, so I was quite impressed with how the biceps were looking here. Obviously, I mentioned in a video before, I am fairly lean, not stage lean, but leaner than you would be, in an off-season bulk, which will start in a couple of months, I believe. But yeah, biceps looking really, really nice here. I think a lot of movements today, I believe I could have gone heavier, but new gym as always, and we are only a couple weeks into the new split, so it will get better as it goes along. But yeah, very happy here with how this movement went. I think I'm at a point where my biceps compared to the other muscle groups I think are far ahead, I'd say. So I do think I could get away with just putting one heavy set of dumbbell curls and then a back off, literally just regular curls at the end of a session. I still think they'd be absolutely fine. So moving on here to incline dumbbell curls, we had the 12s here. We did 2 sets. By the way, the preacher curls were 2 sets as well on either arm. But here we believe it was 12 for 8 times 2. I feel like this is why I want to invest in a proper camera, because when I was looking to over my right shoulder here, like they were looking very good. But yeah, here's the last bicep movement. This was the warm-up 6s. We did do the 18s, I believe, stand-in. I usually do a heavy set stand-in and then straight in to seated. So 2 sets, 1 heavy stand-in, and then about 4 kilos on each arm lighter, and then seated to failure. You shouldn't be able to feel your forearms after this. But yeah, I believe that is us coming to the end of that session. Good session. There is a good few things that I'm going to be changing on it, but I will explain that at the start of chest and biceps, I believe on Saturday. But yeah, I think what I'm doing for biceps now is I should not change it. Alright, session done and dusted. Now it was a bit of a long one. It did drag. Now my plan is for this, it was sort of like when I did legs and back and triceps in a different gym. I sort of had to use my knowledge and then take what I did from the first one and sort of like create. So like there's a lot to tweak if you go into a new gym, and the first time you go in there doing a certain routine, there's going to be stuff that you need to tweak, and so I'm going to be doing that one. So the routine you've just seen, next time it will look a bit different, but then from that it won't really change. I think I've got in my head exactly what I know what I'm going to do. But yeah, tomorrow we have back and triceps. Thinking for rest, when I'm doing rest days, I might just do like a different type of video, because I've got one on Sunday. And say for example, like I have to train between like 4 and 8 o'clock. Probably wouldn't film everything. I'd maybe do like a different type of video, but still like showing you guys the progress and stuff, like a podcast almost thing. Obviously it won't be called that, but yeah, I'm looking forward to showing you guys the updated routine next chest and bicep session. But yeah,